Guys, we need to talk about Grey Alien Games. You see, despite celebrating their 20th anniversary this year, this UK-based developer really stumbled onto a winning formula when they released Regency Solitaire in 2015. Since then, they've released a number of variations on that theme, like Ancient Enemy, which added an action-packed story and one-on-one combat to the mix. For nearly a full decade now, I've devoured their simple yet addictive solitaire mashups, always looking forward to what Grey Alien would come up with next. However, with the release of Shadowhand Solitaire, a repackaged version of their 2017 puzzle game that all but removes the combat, I'm starting to worry that this inventive developer has simply run out of ideas. Is it finally time for Grey Alien to shake things up a bit? Find out now when I review Shadowhand Solitaire. Shadowhand is, without a doubt, my favorite 18th century superhero. By day, she's Lady Cornelia Darkmoor, a beguiling young aristocrat with a secret. You see, when she dons her special mask, she becomes Shadowhand, a notorious highwaywoman who is more than willing to get her hands dirty if that's what the job requires. With sword in one hand and a pistol in the other, Shadowhand is on a quest to find and protect her friend, which eventually leads to a conspiracy filled with corruption, smuggling, and blackmail. Everybody has a story in this dangerous world. Now, the similarities will continue with the puzzle-solving gameplay, which is nearly identical to all of Grey Alien's previous games. Similar to Regency Solitaire, Shadowhand Solitaire only loosely follows the rules of the popular card game. This isn't about matching suits and moving a large pile of cards around, you see, because the only thing that you really need to worry about is counting up or down. It's actually surprisingly simple. If you draw a 3, then you're going to be looking for a 2 or a 4. The idea is to continue to count up and down until you either clear the board or need to draw a new card. The puzzles start out simple enough, but quickly add new obstacles that'll make moving the cards around a lot more difficult. For example, some piles will need to be unlocked with a key, while others will need to be dug up with a shovel. There are levels hiding treasures, stages with overgrown thorn bushes that need to be burned down, and even cards that are in the dark that will require a lantern to be seen. Speaking of things from the first game, Shadowhand has a bunch of special abilities at the ready. These powers will actually allow you to change the board in dramatic ways, such as destroying a few cards off the top, or just reshuffling the whole thing. You'll unlock and buy a bunch of these active and passive powers, giving Shadowhand the skills that she's gonna need to get ahead in this cutthroat world. Now, the fun thing that the original Shadowhand game introduced was the combat, turning a simple solitaire game into an exciting one-on-one fight. While occasionally frustrating and maybe a little too dependent on luck, this was one of the things that I loved about that 2017 game. Grey Alien did such a good job of giving each opponent a different tactic, thanks in large part to the wide variety of items and special abilities that they would throw at you. Best of all, these battles didn't come across as tacked on, but rather, they felt like a natural extension of the regular stages. This added a fun layer of complexity to the game that was missing from Regency Solitaire, and then later they built upon that idea in the 2020 game Ancient Enemy. Unfortunately, it's this combat angle that they fiddled with in this repackaged version of Shadowhand. Look, I hate to use the phrase dumbed down, but the one-on-one fights have definitely been simplified. Instead of the turn-based combat that we saw with the first release, the game now wants you to just clear the board. And really, if you decide to play on either the relaxed or normal modes, you don't even have to do that. You're actually guaranteed a victory every single time you play on relaxed mode, while normal mode doesn't even require you to clear every card off the table. This is, to put it bluntly, a completely baffling decision. It would be one thing if Grey Alien decided to remove one of the best and most unique elements of the original game in order to add something new and equally compelling, but that is not what happened. Instead, what they did was simply change the rules of the combat, effectively neutering one of the series' biggest selling points. And to what end? If they were worried that maybe casual gamers might be turned off by the combat elements, then why not offer that as an option in the original game? Why on earth would you go through the process of releasing a whole new game? None of this makes any sense to me. Now look, to the developers' credit, they have addressed some of these complaints. They talked about making a lot of gameplay changes and rebalancing things, which apparently took hundreds of hours of work. And let me tell you, in no way do I want to minimize the time and effort that went into repackaging this game. Grey Alien is a small company, and I think we all know how even a relatively small project can lead to a massive amount of work. That said, I have a hard time not being incredibly disappointed by the decisions that were made here. While I'm sure that there are people that would prefer a more casual version of Shadowhand, this just feels like a big step in the wrong direction. And that's especially frustrating because the rest of the game is so damn good. I love the story, I love the art, I love the characters. I had a massive smile on my face as I worked my way through the hundreds of puzzles because Grey Alien's version of Solitaire is so much fun. In fact, I'd argue that the puzzle solving is so good that you don't even need the combat to have a great time. I mean, Regency Solitaire 2 was released earlier this year and it managed to be great without a bunch of people getting into fights. But this is Shadowhand that we're talking about. Her whole thing is smacking down evildoers. And taking that away from her doesn't really add anything to the game, it just makes it worse. Look, as a fan of both Grey Alien and their style of solitaire games, I definitely want to see the franchise continue. I want to see more Shadowhand, I want to see more Regency Solitaire, hell, I want to see more Ancient Enemy. But after a decade of these games, one thing is painfully clear. It's time to shake things up a bit. I don't know if that means changing the setting entirely or finding a unique new gameplay wrinkle, but I'm telling you, something needs to change to keep these games fresh. For years now, I've taken to social media to beg the developer to make Shadowhand in space. Sure, I'm mostly just joking around when I say this, but honestly, this is the kind of shakeup the series needs. At this point, I feel like I know what to expect from a Grey Alien game. There are no surprises. That's especially true with Shadowhand Solitaire, a game that not only recycles the same story, but actively makes it worse by removing the one thing that helped to set it apart. The core puzzle solving is still a lot of fun, but the direction that this game takes Lady Cornelia is both disappointing and discouraging. If you already own the 2017 version of Shadowhand, then don't even bother with this repackaged version. Shadowhand Solitaire offers the same characters, the same art, and the same story, all while simplifying the head-to-head combat. In an effort to make the game more friendly to casual gamers, Grey Alien has removed one of the best and most compelling elements from the original game. Well, that's certainly disappointing. There are still hundreds of puzzles to solve and a gripping story full of twists and turns. I'd say you're better off buying the original game. But hey, Shadowhand Solitaire is here just to give you a choice. I say choose wisely. Hey, thanks for watching my review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite card game? I'm talking video game, real life, it doesn't matter. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, I'm honestly excited for the weekend. After a week of non-stop Nintendo Switch Online announcements, I need a break. I need to recharge. We'll be back next week with a review of Mission in Snowdrift Land and Funko Fusion? Plus, we're probably going to have a review crew episode that'll cover Donkey Kong Land 3. I mean, you know it's coming. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,